The day starts like any other. I'm going through the motions, barely aware of the monotony that's settled into my life. I wake up, shower, dress, and head downstairs. My wife is already in the kitchen, sipping her coffee, flipping through her phone. She looks up briefly, offers a smile that doesn't reach her eyes, and goes back to her scrolling. Nothing seems out of place, yet there's a strange tension in the air that I can't quite put my finger on. I grab the trash bag, a chore I've done 1,000 times without thinking. I walk out to the bin, lift the lid, and that's when I see them, used condoms, sitting right on top of the pile. My heart stops. My mind races, trying to make sense of what I'm seeing. They're not mine. They can't be. I stand there staring as the realization slowly sinks in. This is real. This is happening. I march back inside, the bag still in my hand, my pulse pounding in my ears. "What the hell is this?" I demand, my voice louder than I intended. She looks up at me, surprised, then follows my gaze to the trash. There's a flicker of something in her eyes. Guilt? No, it's something colder, something like indifference. She shrugs, leaning back against the counter. "Just look at the size of it," she says, her voice casual, almost amused. I couldn't resist. Her words hit me like a physical blow. I feel the ground shift beneath my feet. Before I can respond, I hear a voice from behind me. "That's definitely my size," and he says, strolling into the kitchen as if he owns the place. It's our neighbor. He's smirking, eyes glinting with arrogance. "You've got a tiny one, pal," he adds, chuckling. "By the way, last night was amazing." My hands clench into fists, anger boiling up from somewhere deep inside. I lunge at him, but he's quicker, stepping back with that same smug grin. My wife doesn't move, doesn't react. She just watches, that same cold look on her face like she's bored by the whole thing. I stop myself before I do something I'll regret. I'm shaking with rage, betrayal coursing through my veins. How could she? How could they? I thought we were happy, or at least content. But now everything I believed in, everything I trusted, is crumbling around me. I look at her, hoping for some sign of remorse, some hint that she cares. But there's nothing, just that icy, detached expression. It's like I'm not even there. I turn and walk out, the sound of their laughter ringing in my ears, mocking me. As I step outside, the cool air hits my face, but it does nothing to calm the storm inside me. The world I knew is gone, replaced by a burning need for revenge. I'm going to make them pay. I don't know how yet, but I will. They won't get away with this. Not if I have anything to say about it. His taunts ring in my ears long after I leave the house. I walk around the block trying to cool off, but the anger only builds with each step. My neighbor's smug face keeps flashing in my mind. That arrogant smirk that told me he thought he'd won. And maybe he had, but not for long. The betrayal from my wife cuts deep, but the humiliation he added to it is what makes my blood boil. By the time I return home, the rage has solidified into something colder, more calculated. I enter the house quietly, my mind racing with plans, ideas, ways to make them pay. I find her sitting on the couch, legs crossed, looking at her phone as if nothing happened. The sight of her, so casual, so unaffected, makes my stomach turn. "Did you enjoy your walk?" she asks without looking up. Her voice is light, almost mocking. I don't respond, just head to the kitchen, needing to put some distance between us. The sight of those condoms in the trash flashes in my mind again, and I feel the anger rise, but I force it down. I need to be smart about this. I need to think. That night, I lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, while she sleeps soundly beside me. The contrast is stark. My mind is a storm, and she's completely at ease. The betrayal replays over and over in my head, each time fueling my resolve. I can't let them get away with this. I can't be the fool who just lets it slide. The next day, I start planning. I'm meticulous, methodical, because I know this needs to be perfect. I can't afford any mistakes. I start by gathering information, little things that might seem insignificant but could be useful later. I check her phone when she's in the shower, scroll through her messages, her emails. It's worse than I thought. The affair isn't just a fling. It's been going on for months right under my nose. The messages are explicit, filled with details that make my skin crawl. It's not just sex. There's a level of intimacy in their conversations that I thought was reserved for us. I take screenshots of everything, save them to a hidden folder on my laptop. I don't know exactly what I'll do with them yet, but I know they'll be useful. I also start paying closer attention to our neighbor, watching him whenever I can without being seen. He's as cocky as ever, strutting around as if he owns the place, completely unaware that I'm watching his every move. As the days pass, my anger sharpens into something more focused. I start to imagine different scenarios, different ways to make them suffer as I have. I toy with the idea of going public, exposing them both to our friends, our community, but that feels too simple, too quick. I want them to feel the same pain, the same humiliation, but drawn out, stretched over time until it breaks them. I start small. One day while she's out, I go through her things, finding the little mementos of their affair. A receipt for a hotel room, a cheap piece of jewelry I've never seen her wear, but that she clearly values. I take them and I destroy them. It's petty, I know, but it gives me a small, twisted satisfaction. It's a start. I also begin planting doubts in her mind. I'll make comments about our neighbor, subtle jabs that suggest I know more than I'm letting on. I watch her reactions closely. At first, she doesn't seem to notice, but as I continue, I see her start to tense up, start to wonder if I'm on to her. It's a small victory, but it's something. Then one evening, I hear her on the phone with him. She's in the kitchen, speaking in hushed tones, but I can still hear every word. They're planning their next rendezvous, another hotel, another night of betrayal. I listen, seething, and then I decide to act. I wait until she's asleep, then I take her phone from the nightstand. I find the number she dialed last, confirm it's his, and I save it. I also forward some of their more incriminating messages to myself, just in case. Then I start laying the groundwork for what's to come. The next day, I call in sick to work. I need time to put everything in motion. I start by making a few calls, setting up an alibi, and then I head out. I drive around the city thinking, planning. I need to find a way to hit them where it hurts to make them pay for what they've done to me. I decide to start with him. He's the one who taunted me, who flaunted their affair right in front of my face. He's the one I need to take down first. I know where he works. He's mentioned it enough times during our neighborly chats. I drive to his office, park across the street and wait. It's a small, nondescript building, nothing fancy. I watch as he arrives, strutting through the front door without a care in the world. I imagine him in his office, laughing with his coworkers, completely oblivious to the fact that his world is about to come crashing down. I follow him for a few days, learning his routine, figuring out the best time to strike. He's predictable, like most men who think they're untouchable. He leaves for lunch at the same time every day, always at the same deli down the street. It's there that I decide to make my move. On the day of the attack, I arrive early, parking a few blocks away. I walk to the deli, my heart pounding in my chest, but my mind is clear. I know what I have to do. I wait for him in a booth at the back, hidden from view. When he finally arrives, I let him settle in, let him order his food before I make my approach. I slide into the seat across from him, and he looks up, surprised. For a moment, there's a flicker of something in his eyes. Fear? But then it's gone, replaced by that same cocky grin. "Well, this is a surprise," he says, leaning back in his seat. "Come to join me for lunch?" I don't respond. Instead, I pull out my phone, open the folder where I've saved all the evidence, and slide it across the table. He glances down, and for the first time, I see the confidence waver. "What's this?" he asks, his voice a little less sure. "It's what I'm going to show your boss if you don't back off," I say, my voice low and steady. "Every text, every photo, every disgusting detail of your affair with my wife. I wonder how your wife would react if she saw these." He blanches, the color draining from his face. "You wouldn't. Try me." He stares at me, trying to gauge if I'm serious. I hold his gaze, not blinking, not flinching. After a few tense moments, he finally looks away, swallowing hard. "What do you want?" he asks, his voice barely above a whisper. "I want you out of my life. I want you to stop seeing her. And if you ever come near me or my family again, I'll ruin you. I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of man you really are." He nods, not meeting my eyes. "Fine. You've made your point. Good." I stand up, taking my phone back, and walk out of the deli. My hands are shaking, adrenaline pumping through my veins. But I feel a sense of satisfaction, of control, that I haven't felt in weeks. It's a small victory, but it's a start. But as I drive home, the satisfaction fades, replaced by a gnawing doubt. Will he really back off, or will he just find another way to get to me? And what about her? How do I deal with my wife, the woman I once loved, who has betrayed me so completely? When I get home, she's in the kitchen, preparing dinner like nothing's wrong. I watch her for a moment, the way she moves, so familiar, yet now so alien. The anger rises again, but this time I push it down, force myself to stay calm. I need to think this through, need to figure out my next move. That night I can't sleep. I lie in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. The confrontation with him was just the beginning. There's still so much more to do. I need to dismantle everything, every part of their lives, just like they've dismantled mine. But how? How far am I willing to go? The next morning I'm up before dawn, sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee, staring out the window. The world outside is quiet, peaceful, a stark contrast to the chaos in my head. I think about my options, about what I could do next. I could go to the police, but what would that achieve? An affair isn't a crime. I need something more, something that will really hurt them. I start digging into her finances, her accounts, looking for anything I can use. I find that she's been siphoning money into a separate account, probably to use with him. I transfer the money back, leaving just enough for her to notice, but not enough to alert her right away. It's a small move, but it's another step in the right direction. I also start paying closer attention to her schedule, trying to figure out when she's meeting him. She's careful, but not careful enough. I notice little things. Her taking longer showers, her being more secretive with her phone. It's all so obvious now, so clear. How did I miss this before? I follow her one evening, watching as she drives to a hotel on the other side of town. I park across the street, watching as she meets him in the lobby. They embrace, and I feel a surge of anger, but I force myself to stay calm. I need to think, need to plan. I take photos, record video, documenting everything. I'm going to use this, all of it, to destroy them both. But not yet. I need to wait, need to be patient. I need to find the right moment to strike. As I drive home, I realize that this isn't just about revenge anymore. It's about taking back control, about reclaiming the power they've taken from me. I'm not just going to hurt them, I'm going to destroy them. And when I'm done, they'll both wish they'd never crossed me. The next few days are a blur of planning and preparation. I keep up appearances at home, acting like nothing's wrong, but inside I'm seething, counting down the days until I can finally put my plan into action. I know it's risky, know that one wrong move could blow everything up in my face, but I don't care. I'm too far gone now, too consumed by the need to make them pay. And so, I wait. I bide my time, watching, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. When it comes, they won't know what hit them. They'll think they've won, that they've gotten away with it, but they're wrong. I'm not finished yet, not by a long shot. The day after my confrontation with him, I wake up early, the weight of what I'm planning pressing down on me. I feel the tension in every muscle, but there's no turning back now. I've started this, and I need to see it through. My first step is to escalate the psychological warfare. They think they're untouchable, but I'm going to show them just how wrong they are. I begin by planting seeds of doubt. Subtle changes to her environment, moving her things around, swapping out items she's used to seeing every day with identical ones. It's small, almost imperceptible, but it's enough to make her question her sanity. I watch her reaction carefully, noting the way she hesitates when she reaches for something and finds it slightly out of place. She's getting jumpy, second-guessing herself, and I know it's working. I move on to more direct actions. I start sending anonymous messages to her phone, crafted to sound like they're from someone who knows about the affair. The messages are vague but menacing, enough to unsettle her without revealing that it's me. I can see the fear in her eyes every time she checks her phone, her hands trembling slightly as she reads. She doesn't say anything to me, of course. Why would she? We've barely spoken in weeks, the silence between us growing thicker with each passing day. At work, I'm distracted, constantly thinking about what's happening at home. My performance starts slipping, and I know people are noticing. But I don't care. All I can focus on is the revenge I'm orchestrating. I make mistakes, miss deadlines, and my boss pulls me aside more than once to ask if everything's okay. I lie, saying I'm just going through a rough patch. But the truth is, I'm unraveling. Despite my efforts, things start to backfire. One evening, I come home to find her in tears, clutching her phone. For a moment, I feel a pang of guilt, but it's quickly overshadowed by the satisfaction of seeing her like this. She looks at me with red-rimmed eyes and says, "I think someone's following me. I keep getting these messages and I don't know who they're from. I'm scared." I nod, pretending to be concerned, but inside I'm savoring the fear in her voice. "Maybe it's just a prank," I suggest, trying to sound comforting. "People do stupid things sometimes." But she shakes her head, her voice trembling. "No, it feels personal, like someone knows something about us." I freeze, the implications of her words hitting me hard. If she starts connecting the dots, my whole plan could fall apart. I quickly backtrack, trying to steer the conversation away from anything that might lead her to suspect me. "Have you told anyone else about this?" I ask, keeping my tone light. "No," she whispers. "I didn't want to worry anyone." "Maybe you should change your number," I suggest. "Or go to the police if it keeps happening." She nods, but I can see the doubt in her eyes. She's on edge, paranoid, and it's clear that the pressure is starting to get to her. It's exactly what I wanted, but it's happening too fast, spiraling out of control. The next day, I find out that my neighbor has retaliated. I arrive home to find a letter slipped under my door. No return address, just a single sheet of paper with a photo of my wife and him, clearly taken from a distance. They're standing too close, talking, smiling, intimate. There's a note scrawled on the back. "You think you're smart, but I see everything." My hands shake as I hold the photo. He's trying to turn the tables to make me feel the same paranoia I've been inflicting on them. And it's working. For the first time since this all began, I feel a twinge of fear. If he knows what I'm up to, he could ruin everything. He could go to the police, expose me, and then it's game over. I sit down, the photo still in my hand, and I realize that I've underestimated him. He's not just some arrogant jerk who thinks he's invincible. He's dangerous, and he's not going to go down without a fight. The following days are a blur of anxiety and desperation. I step up my efforts, sending more messages, more threats, trying to keep the pressure on them, but it's not enough. I can feel the situation slipping out of my control, and I'm running out of options. I decide to take things to the next level. I start planning something bigger, something that will force them to back off for good. I need to hit them where it hurts the most, and that means going after their reputations. I gather all the evidence I've collected, photos, messages, videos, and start putting together a dossier that I can use to blackmail them. I decide to start with my neighbor. I know where he works, and I know that if his boss finds out about the affair, it could cost him his job. I put together an anonymous package, complete with copies of the incriminating evidence, and mail it to his office, ensuring that it will land on his boss's desk. A few days later, I hear the fallout. My neighbor comes home late one night, clearly drunk, his face flushed with anger. I watch from my window as he stumbles into his house, slamming the door behind him. The next day, I overhear him arguing with his wife, shouting about how everything's falling apart. He's on the brink, and it's exactly where I want him. But just as I'm starting to feel like I'm regaining control, everything comes crashing down. My wife confronts me one evening, holding her phone in her hand, her face pale with anger. "You've been sending the messages, haven't you?" she demands, her voice trembling with fury. For a moment, I'm speechless, caught off guard by her accusation. But then I realize that this is it, the moment where everything either comes together or falls apart. I try to deny it, but she cuts me off, her voice rising. "Don't lie to me. I know it's you. I found the app on your phone. How could you do this to me?" I'm cornered and there's no way out. I confess, admitting to everything, hoping that I can somehow turn this around. But instead of backing down, she explodes, her anger boiling over. "You're insane," she screams. "You've ruined everything. You've been playing games with me, with us, and for what? To get back at me? Well, congratulations, you've done it. You've destroyed our marriage and now you're going to destroy yourself." She grabs her phone, threatening to call the police, but I manage to stop her, begging her to listen to me. I tried to explain that I did it because I couldn't stand what she did, that I needed to make them pay. But she's beyond reason, too consumed by her own rage and fear. In a last-ditch effort to salvage something from the wreckage, I tell her about the dossier, about how I've already sent it to her lover's boss, about how he's going to lose everything just like I have. But instead of feeling satisfied, she looks at me with a mix of horror and disgust. "You're sick," she whispers. "You need help." She leaves that night, taking only a small bag of clothes, and doesn't come back. The house feels empty without her, but the silence is oppressive, filled with the echoes of everything that's happened. I'm alone, and for the first time I realize just how far I've gone, how much I've lost in my quest for revenge. But there's no turning back now. I've come too far to stop. I need to finish what I started, to see this through to the end, no matter the cost. I focus all my energy on my neighbor, the man who started this nightmare. I track his movements, watching him closely, looking for any opportunity to strike. He's unraveling, just like I am, and it's only a matter of time before he snaps. One night, I follow him to a bar on the edge of town. He's drinking heavily, clearly trying to drown his sorrows, and I see my chance. I wait until he leaves, stumbling into the parking lot, and then I confront him. He's too drunk to put up much of a fight, and I quickly overpower him, dragging him into the alley behind the bar. I've never been a violent person, but in that moment, all the anger, all the frustration I've been holding in comes pouring out. I beat him, taking out all the pain he's caused me, all the humiliation, until he's lying on the ground, bloodied and barely conscious. As I stand over him, panting, I feel a strange sense of satisfaction, but it's quickly overshadowed by a deep, gnawing emptiness. This isn't what I wanted. This isn't how it was supposed to end, but it's too late to stop now. I leave him there, slumped against the wall, and drive home in a daze. When I get there, the house is dark, cold, and empty. I sit down at the kitchen table, staring at the blood on my hands, and realize that I've become something I never thought I could be. I've lost everything, my wife, my sanity, my sense of who I am, and all I have left is the hollow victory of I sit in the dark, the weight of everything pressing down on me like a suffocating blanket. The house is silent, eerily so, and every creak and groan of the old floorboards seems magnified in the emptiness. My mind races, replaying the events of the past few weeks, the mistakes I've made, and the mess I've created. I've come too far to turn back, but I'm not sure I can go forward either. I'm trapped in a web of my own making, and there's no easy way out. I know what I have to do. I have to finish this. It's the only way to regain control, to reclaim some semblance of dignity. I've been pushed to the edge, and there's no room for hesitation now. I take a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves and begin to finalize my plan. It's late when I finally make my move. The darkness outside mirrors the darkness inside me, a fitting backdrop for what's about to happen. I drive to my neighbor's house, parking a few blocks away to avoid suspicion. The street is quiet, most of the house is dark, the neighborhood asleep and unaware of the storm brewing in its midst. I approach his house cautiously, keeping to the shadows. My heart pounds in my chest, adrenaline surging through my veins, but my mind is clear, focused. I'm ready for this. I've been ready for this since the moment I discovered their betrayal. Now, it's time to make them pay. The back door is unlocked, just as I expected. He's gotten careless, too comfortable in his arrogance, and it's going to be his downfall. I slip inside, moving silently through the house. I know the layout well enough. After all, we were neighbors, friends even, before everything went to hell. I find him in the living room, slumped on the couch with a half-empty bottle of whiskey in his hand. He's watching something on the TV, but his eyes are glazed over, unfocused. He doesn't hear me enter the room, doesn't even register my presence until I'm standing right in front of him. He looks up, startled, and for a moment, there's a flicker of recognition in his eyes, followed by fear. "What the hell are you doing here?" he slurs, trying to sit up, but his body is too slow, too drunk to react. I don't answer. Instead, I pull out the gun I've brought with me, holding it steady in front of him. His eyes widen, and he sobers up quickly, the reality of the situation crashing down on him. "Whoa, whoa, man! Let's not do anything stupid," he stammers, raising his hands in a placating gesture. "Shut up," I snap, my voice low and cold. "You don't get to talk." "Not after everything you've done." He swallows hard, fear etched into every line of his face. "Look, I'm sorry, okay? I didn't mean for things to get this far. It was just a bit of fun, that's all. I didn't mean to hurt you." "Fun," I repeat, my voice trembling with rage. "You call destroying my life fun?" He doesn't have an answer for that, just stares at me with those pleading eyes, begging for mercy. But mercy isn't on the table tonight. Not anymore. I've been pushed too far, too hard, and there's no going back now. I take a step closer, the barrel of the gun inches from his face. "You took everything from me," I say, my voice barely above a whisper. "You ruined my marriage, humiliated me, and for what? So you could get your kicks with my wife?" He tries to speak, but I cut him off. "No, you don't get to explain. You don't get to justify what you did. You're going to pay for this, and I'm going to make sure you feel every ounce of pain you caused me." I see the fear in his eyes turn to panic as he realizes I'm serious, that there's no talking his way out of this. He scrambles to his feet, trying to make a run for it, but he's too slow, too drunk, and I'm on him in an instant. I grab him by the collar, shoving him back onto the couch, the gun pressing into his temple. "Please," he whimpers, tears streaming down his face. "Please don't do this. I'm sorry." I'm so sorry. But his apologies fall on deaf ears. I'm beyond that now. I'm beyond anything except the need for retribution. The gun is heavy in my hand, the weight of it a stark reminder of the finality of what I'm about to do. I hesitate for a moment, the enormity of the situation sinking in. But then I remember everything he's taken from me, everything he's destroyed, and the hesitation fades. I pull the trigger. The sound is deafening in the small room, the recoil jarring, but I don't flinch. I watch as his body slumps back against the couch, lifeless, the blood pooling around him. There's no satisfaction in this, no sense of victory, just a cold emptiness that settles deep in my chest. I've done it. I've finally exacted my revenge, but it doesn't feel like a win. It feels like a loss. I stand there for a long moment, staring at what I've done, trying to process it, but there's nothing to process, nothing to feel. I've crossed a line, and there's no going back. I'm not the man I was before all this started. I'm something else now, something darker, and it terrifies me. But I can't stop now. There's still one more person who needs to pay. I leave his house, the gun still warm in my hand, and drive to the hotel where I know she's staying. It's late, but I don't care. This ends tonight, one way or another. The drive is a blur, my mind numb, my heart heavy with what I've done and what I'm about to do. When I arrive, I park in the back, out of sight, and make my way to her room. I don't knock. I just walk in, the door unlocking with the spare key card I stole from her purse weeks ago. She's lying on the bed, scrolling through her phone, and looks up in surprise when I enter. "What are you doing here?" she asks, sitting up, her brow furrowed in confusion. I don't answer, just walk toward her, the gun hanging at my side. She sees it, and her eyes widen in fear, just like his did. "What the hell is wrong with you?" she yells, scrambling off the bed. "Are you insane?" "Maybe," I say, my voice hollow. "Or maybe I've just finally woken up." She backs away, her hands up in a defensive gesture. But there's nowhere for her to go. I've got her cornered, just like I had him. "Please," she begs, tears welling up in her eyes. "Don't do this. We can fix this. We can still fix this." "There's nothing to fix," I reply, taking another step closer. "You destroyed us the moment you decided to betray me." "I'm sorry," she cries, her voice shaking. "I was stupid, okay? I made a mistake, but I still love you. We can work through this." "Love?" I scoff, the word bitter on my tongue. "You don't know what love is. If you did, you wouldn't have done this to me." She's crying now, her body shaking with sobs, but it does nothing to move me. I'm too far gone, too consumed by the darkness that's taken hold of me. There's no coming back from this. I raise the gun, pointing it at her, and she lets out a strangled scream, her hands flying to her mouth. "Please," she whispers, her voice barely audible. "Please don't." For a moment I hesitate, the weight of the gun suddenly feeling too heavy in my hand. I look at her, really look at her, and for a split second I see the woman I fell in love with, the woman I married, the woman I thought I would spend the rest of my life with. But then I remember what she did, how she shattered everything we had, and the hesitation disappears. I tighten my grip on the gun, my finger hovering over the trigger. She closes her eyes, bracing herself for the inevitable. But just as I'm about to pull the trigger, something inside me snaps. The anger, the pain, the overwhelming need for revenge, it all crumbles away, leaving me with nothing but a hollow emptiness. I can't do it. I can't kill her. No matter how much she's hurt me, no matter how much I want her to pay, I can't bring myself to take her life. I lower the gun, the adrenaline draining from my body, leaving me weak, shaking. She opens her eyes, disbelief and relief flooding her expression. "Thank you," she whispers, her voice breaking. But I don't respond. I turn and walk out of the room, leaving her standing there, her sobs echoing in my ears. I feel nothing as I leave, just a numbness that settles deep in my bones. I've lost everything: my wife, my sanity, my sense of who I am. And all I have left is this crushing emptiness, this void that nothing can fill. I drive aimlessly. The engine hums softly as I drive, the night stretching out endlessly before me. The darkness outside the car windows feels like a mirror, reflecting the emptiness inside me. I keep driving, not really knowing where I'm going, just needing to move, to escape the suffocating silence of my thoughts. The streets are deserted, and the only light comes from the occasional flicker of street lamps, casting long shadows that seem to reach out for me, as if trying to pull me back into the abyss I've created. I don't know how long I drive, but eventually I find myself parked in front of a nondescript motel on the outskirts of town. The neon sign buzzes faintly, its light barely cutting through the thick night air. I sit there for a moment, staring at the flickering sign, feeling the weight of everything pressing down on me. I've crossed so many lines, done things I never thought I was capable of. And for what? The revenge I sought so desperately feels hollow now, a cold comfort that offers no real solace. But I'm not done. Not yet. There's still one more thing to do, one more piece to this twisted puzzle that needs to be put in place before I can finally rest. I reach into the glove compartment and pull out the small black notebook I've been keeping. Inside are all the details, all the evidence I've gathered over the past few weeks. It's my final play, the one thing that will ensure they can't recover from this. I flip through the pages, my mind racing with the possibilities, the consequences of what I'm about to do. I get out of the car, the notebook clutched tightly in my hand, and head toward the motel entrance. The clerk behind the counter barely looks up as I approach, his eyes glazed over from boredom or fatigue. I ask for a room, paying in cash, and he hands me a key without a word. The transaction feels mechanical, devoid of any real human connection, and I wonder if he even sees me, or if I'm just another faceless guest passing through his life. The room is small, dingy, with the faint smell of mildew clinging to the air. I close the door behind me and sit on the edge of the bed, staring at the faded wallpaper peeling at the corners. My mind is a whirlwind of thoughts, but one thing is clear. I have to finish this. I've come too far to stop now. I take out my phone and dial her number. The phone rings for what feels like an eternity before she finally answers. Her voice is hesitant, wary, and I can hear the exhaustion in her tone. "What do you want?" she asks, and I can tell she's been crying. "We need to talk," I say, my voice steady, calm. "Come to the motel on Route 17. Room 12. "Why would I do that?" she snaps, the anger flaring up again. "Because if you don't, I'll make sure everyone knows what you and he did. I'll ruin you both, and there won't be anything left to salvage." There's a long pause on the other end of the line, and I can almost hear her weighing her options. She knows I'm serious, knows I'm capable of doing exactly what I've threatened. Finally, she sighs, a sound of resignation. "Fine. I'll be there in 20 minutes. The line goes dead, and I drop the phone on the bed beside me, staring at the notebook in my lap. I've planned every detail, every move, but now that the moment is here, I feel a strange sense of detachment, like I'm watching someone else go through the motions. I wonder if this is how it feels to lose your soul, to be so consumed by darkness that there's nothing left of who you used to be. The minutes tick by slowly, each one dragging me closer to the inevitable confrontation. When I hear a knock at the door, my heart skips a beat, but I force myself to stay calm, to remember why I'm doing this. I get up, crossing the small room in a few steps, and open the door. She stands there, her arms crossed over her chest, her face a mix of anger, fear, and something else I can't quite place. She's dressed in a simple black dress, her hair pulled back into a tight ponytail, but there's a weariness in her eyes that I haven't seen before. For a moment, we just stare at each other, neither of us saying a word, the tension thick between us. "Can I come in?" she finally asks, her voice barely above a whisper. I step aside, letting her enter the room, and close the door behind her. She doesn't sit down, just stands there, her eyes darting around the room as if she's searching for an escape route. "What do you want from me?" she asks, her voice trembling slightly. "I want you to understand what you've done," I say, the words coming out harsher than I intended. "I want you to feel the pain you caused me, to know what it's like to have everything you care about ripped away." She flinches at my words, her eyes narrowing in anger. "You think this is all my fault? You think I wanted any of this?" "You made your choices," I snap, the anger bubbling up again. "You decided to betray me, to throw away everything we had for what? For him?" She shakes her head, tears welling up in her eyes. "I didn't plan for this to happen. I didn't want to hurt you." "But you did," I say, my voice cold. "And now you have to face the consequences." I throw the notebook on the bed and she stares at it, confusion flickering across her face. "What's this?" "Everything," I reply. "Everything I've collected on you and him. Every text, every email, every detail of your affair. If I wanted to, I could destroy you with this." She hesitates, her hands trembling as she reaches for the notebook. She flips through the pages, her face growing paler with each passing second. "Why are you showing me this?" she finally asks, her voice shaky. "Because I want you to understand that I could end it all right now," I say, my tone low and dangerous. "I could take everything from you, just like you took everything from me." She closes the notebook, her hands clutching it tightly, as if it's the only thing keeping her grounded. "What do you want from me?" she repeats, her voice barely audible. "I want you to leave," I say, the words coming out more easily than I expected. I want you to walk out of my life and never come back. Take him with you. Disappear. If you do that, I won't release any of this. You can start over somewhere else, and I'll be rid of both of you. She stares at me, disbelief written all over her face. You're just going to let me go. If you leave tonight, I say, my voice firm, no more games, no more lies. Just go, and this ends here. She opens her mouth to say something, but no words come out. Instead, she just nods, the tears spilling over and running down her cheeks. Okay, she whispers. Okay, I'll go. She turns to leave, but pauses at the door, looking back at me one last time. I'm sorry, she says, her voice cracking, for everything. I don't respond. I just watch as she walks out the door, leaving me alone in the room, the silence pressing down on me like a physical weight. I sink down onto the bed, the exhaustion finally catching up with me. The adrenaline drains away, leaving me feeling hollow, empty. I've won. I've achieved what I set out to do. But as I sit there, staring at the closed door, I can't shake the feeling that I've lost something far more important along the way. The next morning, I wake up to the harsh light of day streaming through the motel room window. My head aches and my body feels heavy, like I'm dragging a 1,000-pound weight around with me. I get up slowly, my muscles protesting every movement, and make my way to the bathroom. The man staring back at me in the mirror is a stranger. His eyes are hollow, his face lined with exhaustion and regret. I barely recognize myself, and I realize with a start that I've become someone I never wanted to be. Someone consumed by darkness, driven by revenge. Someone who's lost everything that ever mattered. I splash cold water on my face, trying to wash away the grime of the past few weeks. But it doesn't help. The guilt clings to me, a constant reminder of the choices I've made. I know I need to face the consequences, to deal with the mess I've created. But right now, I can't bring myself to care. I pack up my things, leaving the notebook behind. It feels like a weight lifted off my shoulders, but it's quickly replaced by the crushing reality of what I've done. I've destroyed lives, including my own, and there's no coming back from that. As I drive back into town, the familiar streets feel foreign, like I'm seeing them for the first time. Everything looks the same, but I know that nothing is. I pull up to my house, the place that used to be my sanctuary, and sit there for a long moment, trying to summon the strength to go inside. When I finally do, the silence is deafening. The house is empty, stripped of the warmth and love that once filled it. I wander through the rooms, each one a reminder of what I've lost, of the life I've thrown away. The kitchen, where we used to cook together, laughing and talking about our day. The living room, where we curled up on the couch, watching movies late into the night. The bedroom, where we whispered secrets in the dark, our bodies entwined. It's all gone now, replaced by a cold, hollow emptiness that echoes with the memories of what used to be. I sit down on the edge of the bed, the same spot where I sat that night when I discovered her betrayal, and the weight of everything crashes down on me. I don't know how long I sit there, lost in my thoughts, but eventually the sound of my phone ringing pulls me back to reality. I glance at the screen and see her name, and for a moment I consider ignoring it, but something compels me to answer. "What is it?" I ask, my voice hoarse. "I'm leaving," she says, her voice steady, but there's an underlying sadness that tugs at something deep inside me. "I just wanted to say goodbye." There's a long silence, neither of us knowing what to say. Finally, she speaks again. "I'm sorry for everything, for the pain I caused you. I never meant for it to end like this." "Me neither," I admit, the words coming out as a whisper. "Take care of yourself," she says, and I can hear the tears in her voice. "Goodbye." The line goes dead, and I'm left staring at the phone, feeling a strange mix of relief and sorrow. It's over. It's finally over. But as I sit there, the weight of everything pressing down on me, I realize that the end isn't the relief I thought it would be. The victory is hollow, and the darkness I've embraced has left me with nothing but regret. I start to restore the house, room by room, trying to erase the damage I've done, both physically and emotionally. It's a slow process, each day a battle against the memories that haunt me. But as the days turn into weeks, I begin to see small signs of progress. The house starts to feel like a home again, but it's a home that's missing a vital piece, a piece I can never replace. The shadow of what I've done lingers, a constant reminder of the price I've paid for revenge. And as I stand in the doorway of the empty bedroom, I know that while the darkness may fade over time, it will never fully disappear. The house is quiet, almost eerily so. I can hear the ticking of the clock in the hallway, each second dragging out longer than the last. The silence is suffocating, but I can't escape it. I sit in the living room, staring at the blank television screen, my mind a whirlwind of thoughts I can't control. The events of the past few months play over and over in my head, each memory sharper, more painful than the last. I thought I'd feel some sense of closure after everything I've done. I thought the revenge would bring me peace, but it hasn't. Instead, it's left me hollow, a shell of the man I used to be. The victories I thought I'd won now feel meaningless, and the cost, my soul, my sanity, feels too high. I've destroyed lives, including my own. And for what? A fleeting sense of power? A momentary thrill? The final confrontation with her still haunts me. Her tears, her pleading, the way she looked at me like I was a stranger. Those images are burned into my mind, and I can't shake them. I see her face every time I close my eyes, and the guilt gnaws at me, a constant reminder of the man I've become. I know I need to face the consequences of my actions. I can't keep running from them, pretending like I haven't crossed lines that can never be uncrossed. But the thought of it terrifies me. What if there's no redemption? What if I'm doomed to live with this darkness inside me forever? I push those thoughts aside and stand up, pacing the room. The walls feel like they're closing in, the air thick and heavy. I need to get out, to clear my head. I grab my coat and head for the door, not sure where I'm going, just knowing I need to move, to escape the suffocating stillness of the house. The night air is cool, a stark contrast to the stifling heat inside my mind. I walk aimlessly through the streets, my thoughts swirling around me like a storm. I replay the events in my mind, trying to make sense of it all, but there's no clarity, no understanding, just chaos and regret. I find myself at the park, the same one where I used to go to clear my head, to think. I sit on a bench, staring out at the darkened playground, the memories of happier times flooding back. This was where we used to come together, where we'd laugh and talk about the future, back when everything seemed possible, before everything fell apart. Now the future feels like a dark void, an endless stretch of uncertainty and despair. I don't know how to move forward, how to rebuild my life after everything I've done. The weight of my actions presses down on me, and I wonder if I'll ever be able to lift it. A figure appears at the edge of the park, moving slowly toward me. For a moment, I think it's a trick of the light, but as the figure gets closer, I recognize her. She stops a few feet away, her eyes searching mine, and I see the same pain, the same regret reflected in her gaze. "You shouldn't be here," I say, my voice hoarse. "I needed to see you," she replies, her voice trembling. "I needed to know if you're okay." I laugh, a bitter sound that echoes in the empty park. "Do I look okay?" She doesn't answer, just stands there, her arms wrapped around herself as if she's trying to hold herself together. The silence stretches between us, thick with everything we can't say. "I'm sorry," she finally whispers, her voice breaking. "I'm so sorry for everything." "Sorry won't fix this," I say, my tone harsh. "Sorry won't change what we've done." "I know," she says, her eyes filling with tears, "but I don't know what else to say. I don't know how to make this right." "There's no making it right," I reply, the truth of it hitting me like a punch to the gut. "We've crossed too many lines, hurt too many people. There's no going back." She nods, the tears spilling over, and for a moment I see the woman I fell in love with, the woman I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with. But that woman is gone, replaced by someone I barely recognize, someone who's as broken as I am. What do we do now? She asks, her voice small, fragile. I don't know, I admit, the words heavy with the weight of our choices. I don't know how to move forward from this. We could try, she says, her voice laced with desperation. We could try to start over, to rebuild. I shake my head, the idea of it too painful to consider. There's nothing left to rebuild. We destroyed it all. The silence between us deepens, the finality of my words sinking in. She looks away, wiping at her tears, and I feel a pang of guilt, but it's quickly swallowed by the emptiness inside me. I think you should go, I say, my voice flat. She hesitates but then nods, understanding that there's nothing more to say. She turns to leave but pauses, looking back at me one last time. I really am sorry, she says, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't respond, just watch as she walks away, her figure fading into the darkness. When she's gone, I feel a strange sense of relief, as if a weight has been lifted, but it's quickly replaced by the crushing loneliness that's been my constant companion since this all began. I sit there for a long time, the night growing colder, the park empty and silent. The weight of my actions presses down on me, and I realize that I've reached the end of the line. There's no more revenge to exact, no more battles to fight. All that's left is the wreckage of my life and the knowledge that I've destroyed everything that ever mattered to me. I know I need to face the consequences, to deal with the fallout of my actions, but I'm not sure I have the strength to do it. The darkness inside me feels too vast, too consuming, and I wonder if I'll ever find a way out. As I walk back to the house, the streets empty and quiet, I feel a strange sense of detachment, like I'm watching someone else's life play out in front of me. The house looms ahead, a dark silhouette against the night sky, and I know that when I step inside, I'll be confronted with the reality of what I've done, the mess I've created, but I can't avoid it forever. I've run out of options, run out of time. The reckoning is here, and there's no escaping it. I open the door and step inside, the silence wrapping around me like a shroud. I make my way to the living room, the memories of what used to be, of the life I've lost, flooding back with every step. I sit down on the couch, the same spot where I once sat with her, and the weight of everything I've done crashes down on me. The guilt, the regret, the overwhelming sense of loss. It's all too much to bear. I feel the tears welling up, the emotions I've been trying to suppress for so long finally breaking free. I bury my face in my hands, the sobs racking my body, and for the first time since this all began, I let myself feel the full weight of my actions. I don't know how long I sit there, lost in the darkness of my own making, but eventually the tears subside, leaving me drained, empty. The silence is deafening, the house a tomb of memories I can never escape. But as I sit there, a strange sense of clarity begins to emerge. I realize that I can't keep running from this, can't keep hiding from the consequences of my actions. I need to face what I've done, to confront the reality of the man I've become. It's not going to be easy. I know that. But it's the only way forward, the only way to start picking up the pieces of my shattered life. I stand up, my legs shaky, my mind still reeling from the weight of everything I've been through. I walk to the window, looking out at the darkened street, and for the first time in what feels like forever, I allow myself to hope that maybe, just maybe, there's a way out of this darkness. But the road ahead is long, and the shadows are deep. And as I stand there staring into the night, I know that the reckoning has only just begun. The days blur together. Time loses its meaning as I go through the motions, each one more mechanical than the last. I wake up, eat, move around the house, but it's all empty, devoid of purpose. The weight of what I've done, what I've become, hangs over me like a dark cloud, suffocating any trace of the person I used to be. I spend hours staring out the window, watching the world go by without me. The life I once had feels like a distant memory, something I can barely grasp. I think about the man I was before all this, the man who believed in love, trust and loyalty. That man is gone, replaced by someone I barely recognize, someone who has been consumed by darkness. The reckoning came, and I faced it. But what now? The confrontation with her was the final nail in the coffin of my old life. There's no going back, no undoing the damage. I've made my choices and now I have to live with them. But the question that haunts me is whether I can live with them. The cost of my revenge has been high, too high, and I'm left wondering if it was worth it. Every action has a consequence and I'm feeling the full weight of mine. The victories I thought I'd won now feel hollow, meaningless. I thought bringing them down would bring me some sense of closure, but all it's brought me is emptiness. The anger that drove me, that fueled my need for revenge, has burned out, leaving nothing but ashes in its place. I've lost everything: my wife, my sense of self, my place in the world. And for what? To prove a point? To make them suffer as I have? The satisfaction I sought has eluded me, and all I'm left with is a void that nothing can fill. I try to pick up the pieces of my life, to find some semblance of normalcy, but it's like trying to build a house on a crumbling foundation. The structure won't hold no matter how hard I try. The memories of what I've done, the people I've hurt, won't let me move on. They're a constant reminder of the darkness that now defines me. I keep to myself, avoiding people, avoiding life. The few friends I had have drifted away, sensing the change in me, the danger that now lurks beneath the surface. I don't blame them. I'm not the same person I was, and I don't expect them to stick around. It's better this way, better that they don't get too close. The house once filled with laughter and love is now a tomb, a monument to everything I've lost. The walls that once held memories of a life built on trust and companionship now echo with the silence of regret. I move through the rooms like a ghost haunted by the past, unable to escape the shadows that cling to every corner. One evening, as I sit in the living room, the silence pressing down on me, I think about what comes next. The future is a blank slate, but instead of being filled with possibilities, it feels like an endless stretch of nothingness. I don't know how to move forward, how to rebuild my life after everything I've done. The darkness inside me feels too vast, too consuming, and I wonder if there's any light left to guide me out of it. I've tried to make amends, but it's not enough. The damage is done, and it can't be undone. I thought revenge would bring me peace, but it's only brought more pain. The question that plagues me now is whether I can find a way to live with that pain, or if it will consume me entirely. As I sit there, lost in my thoughts, a knock on the door pulls me back to the present. I hesitate, unsure if I want to answer, but something compels me to get up, to see who it is. I open the door and there she is, standing on the porch, her eyes filled with something I can't quite place: regret, sorrow, maybe even hope. "I didn't think I'd see you again," I say, my voice flat, devoid of emotion. "I didn't think I'd come back," she replies, her voice trembling slightly. "But I needed to talk to you." I step aside, letting her in, and we sit in the living room, the silence between us heavy with unspoken words. For a long moment, neither of us speaks, both of us unsure where to start. "I've been thinking a lot," she finally says, breaking the silence, "about everything that happened, about what we did to each other." "And?" I ask, not sure I want to hear what she has to say. "I realize something," she continues, her voice soft. "We both made mistakes. We both let our anger and pain drive us to do things we never thought we'd do. But those mistakes don't have to define us." I look at her, trying to gauge if she really believes that. "Do you really think we can just move on? Forget everything that happened?" "No," she admits, shaking her head. "We can't forget, but maybe we can forgive. Maybe we can find a way to heal, even if it takes time." Her words hang in the air, and I feel a flicker of something inside me, something I haven't felt in a long time. Hope. It's a small, fragile thing, but it's there, and it scares me. "Why are you here?" I ask, needing to understand what brought her back. "Because I don't want to live with this anger and regret anymore," she says, her eyes meeting mine. I don't want it to consume me the way it has for so long. And I don't want it to consume you either. I sit back, her words sinking in. The anger, the regret, it's all I've known for so long. It's driven me, kept me going when everything else fell apart. But maybe she's right. Maybe it's time to let it go. To find a way to move forward, even if I don't know what that looks like yet. I don't know if I can do that, I say, the honesty of the admission surprising me. Neither do I, she replies, a small, sad smile on her lips. But maybe we can try. Together. The word together hangs between us, and I realize it's been a long time since I've thought about the possibility of togetherness, of companionship, of anything other than the cold isolation I've wrapped around myself. Maybe, I say, the word tentative, unsure. She reaches out, placing her hand on mine, and for the first time in what feels like forever, I don't pull away. Her touch is warm, grounding, and it feels like a lifeline in the darkness. We sit there, the silence between us no longer heavy, but filled with the possibility of something new, something that might be worth fighting for. The journey ahead is uncertain, and I know it won't be easy. There's still so much to work through, so much pain to overcome. But for the first time in a long time, I feel like there's a path forward, a way out of the darkness. As the night wears on, we talk, really talk, for the first time in months. We share our fears, our regrets, our hopes. It's raw, painful, but also cathartic. We're two broken people trying to find a way to heal, and maybe, just maybe, we can do that together. When she finally leaves, there's a sense of closure, but also a sense of a new beginning. The future is still uncertain, but it no longer feels like an endless void. There's a glimmer of light on the horizon, and I realize that maybe, just maybe, there's a chance for redemption. I watch her walk away, knowing that we both have a long road ahead. But for the first time, I don't feel alone. The darkness is still there, but it's no longer all-consuming. There's a sliver of light breaking through, and I hold on to that as I close the door, feeling a strange sense of peace. The journey isn't over, but I'm ready to face whatever comes next. I don't know what the future holds, but I know one thing. I'm not the man I was before, and that's okay. The choices I made, the paths I took, they've led me here, to this moment, and I'm ready to see where it takes me. As I turn out the lights and head to bed, I feel a weight lift from my shoulders. The reckoning has passed, and while the scars will remain, they don't have to define me. I can choose to be more than my mistakes, more than the darkness that once consumed me. The future is still a mystery, but for the first time in a long time, I'm not afraid of it. I'm ready to embrace whatever comes next, to find a new path, a new purpose. And as I close my eyes, I know that while the journey has been long and painful, it's also brought me to a place of understanding, of acceptance, and maybe, just maybe, a chance for redemption. And that's a journey worth taking.